I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. If you've got an article or a piece of movie news or a question or a topic that you want me to explore on The Daily Question, then please send me an email or a tweet. You can find all of the details in the video description below. Without any further ado, let's get into today's question of the day. Would Thanos' plan, would Thanos' final solution that he executes in Avengers Infinity War, would it actually work? Now, if you're sitting there wondering to yourself, oh, Cheryl, I hope he doesn't get into any spoilers before we have a chance to buy the old Avengers Infinity War on the Laserdisc, now might be a time for you to shut off the video, go and watch the movie, and come back later. If you don't care about spoilers or you've already seen the film, then watch away. So would Thanos' plan work? Basically, in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos is a genocidal environmentalist. He's a big fan of what is sometimes called the Malthusian mentality, after a guy called Thomas Malthus, who was ye old-timey Anglican vicar who fancied himself as a bit of a mathematics guru. And he did the maths and he reckoned that basically we were going to end up with overpopulation and we were going to run out of food. This idea really took off big time with a whole lot of scaremongering around 1968 when a guy called Paul Ehrlich published his book, The Population Bomb, and your parents or grandparents might have read it and freaked out about it. A lot of people got really scared, and it sort of cemented this extremist idea that we were going to suffer dire consequences because of overpopulation into the consciousness of the sort of popular mindset of the day, and it's sort of still with us for a lot of people today as well. Now, basically, Paul Ehrlich was proved to be wildly wrong. He made all sorts of predictions that were really quite extreme. He claimed that basically, unless we implemented some sort of very strict and urgent breeding control program all over the world, that basically we were going to have mass starvations all around the world, in America and England and all sorts of places. People were going to die. None of it came to pass, obviously, but that didn't stop this idea from really taking root and a lot of people getting really scared by it, and still today they freak out about it. And so basically Thanos is motivated by the same idea. Hey, there's too many people, and what we need to do to make the world or the universe a better place is we need to kill half of them. And by killing half of them, I will save the remaining 50%. There will be less people around with more of the resources, and life will be better, and I will be saving people. But here's the problem, and there is a big problem here. His plan wouldn't work. That's the problem. So in answer to the question, would Thanos' plan work? No, it wouldn't work at all. In fact, I've bought my trusty whiteboard marker and my whiteboard here behind me. That's why I have a whiteboard. It's not because I want you to see the glare of lights and some subpar video today. It's because I'm actually going to use this, no expense spared. I've also bought my whiteboard eraser. Again, no expense spared. We're like that on The Daily Question. But here's basically in a nutshell, here's a visual representation of what Thanos' plan actually looks like and why it wouldn't work. So here we go. This is the universe. This is the population of the universe as represented by this visual diagram here. What we have is too many people, according to Thanos. I don't know what makes him qualified to think he knows what the magic number is, but he thinks he knows the magic number. And so he says, I'm going to just randomly wipe out half of them. And here we go. Pen down. Eraser. Boom! I've saved the world. You can thank me later. My name is Thanos. All hail Thanos, right? But his plan wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? Well, the remaining 50% of people who are left behind, what are they going to do? They are going to do what fertile human beings have done, which is actually a really good thing since the beginning of time. They are going to continue to be fertile and to reproduce. And so all that's going to happen is, that's right, they're going to reproduce to the point where they were before. He hasn't done anything. He has not. All he's done is turn back the clock. Now, in order for his plan to work, which he believes is going to make the world a better place, he wouldn't just actually have to wipe out 50% of the population. He would then have to instigate a breeding control program. And he would have to limit the number of people, or number of children, that these remaining people could actually have. Now, it can't just be a breeding control program. He also has to control the gender of the children that people would be having. We know this because in China, they have had a population control program for many decades now. In China, they implemented the disastrous one-child policy. And what happened was, if you tried to have more than one child, even if you tried to run away from it, you would be subjected to forced abortions. If you tried to run away from the forced abortions, they would come to your village and destroy your home or destroy the homes of your family. It was just an awful, horrible thing. Now they've extended it to a two-child policy. How very generous of them. Thank you. But basically what happened in China was people favoured boy children. The reason they favoured boy children, it kind of makes sense because when you think about it, not just is there a cultural preference in China for males, but it's also the fact that males probably have a greater earning capacity and males have the ability to perhaps look after people with greater strength and other things like that in the family, particularly when they get into their older years. They're probably not likely to be away having children and pregnant and things like that, so they can be more available to the family when they need them. There's all sorts of reasons, and basically what they've ended up with now in China is a situation where they have approximately 120 men for every 100 females in China. That's a disaster. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see how that's going to work out, and that problem is already starting to make its presence felt. There are people who are already kidnapping. They call them bride kidnappings. People kidnapping young women because they're young men, they want to get married and start a family. Guess what? You can see what's going to happen there. And what happens effectively is China will find itself very soon in a situation where they won't have enough fertile females to actually maintain their population, and that's going to have a huge impact on them. I read a fascinating article that was published just a couple of weeks ago, because it's not just China. India has also had a preference for male children, and a lot of female babies were aborted as a result of that policy, or that approach. Sorry, not policy, I should say. And between India and China, they have a situation now where there are over 70 million missing females in those two regions alone because of this gender selective abortion that's been practiced there. And this article was about some of the very real social harms and economic harms that are now coming about as a result of this imbalance in the population when it comes to males and females. So Thanos would have to control for that. And what that means is not only is he going to have to run a population control program, but he is also going to have to control the gender of the children that are being born in order to avoid these major and drastic imbalances. Okay? But he doesn't do that. In the movie, he just kills 50% of the universe and then sits back and says, right, my job is done. So his plan would not work. It would be an abject failure. Now, the other thing about his plan that makes it absurd is the fact that it's totally random. It's kind of like Oprah, except genocidal Oprah. You get a car, you get a car, you get genocided, you're dead. You get a car, right? And it's not a good thing because what's happened is he's done this big randomized killing of everyone. And he's like, oh, that's nice and fair. You know, thanks again, Thanos. You're such a great Lord and Savior. And so basically 50% of the people are randomly killed. But what that means is that Thanos has almost certainly created a situation where he has just wiped out a whole lot of really important minds and thinkers and people in the world. Top scientists and experts, medical professionals, world leaders who we were relying on, good, loving mothers and fathers who were going to help to raise good, stable children. And those children are now without those stable parenting and relationship environments in their lives. So basically what he has almost certainly done is he's not just that, but he's also wiped out people who were probably just starting their study, or younger children, or even people who were growing inside their mother's wombs who were going to grow up to actually be really important minds and scientists and engineers and thinkers and leaders in the world who are going to help solve a whole lot of these issues and help to bring some really good advances to allow human flourishing. He's just wiped them all out. And those who are left behind are almost certainly in a far worse situation than what they were. I mean, think about healthcare, for example. He's probably created a situation where when it comes to healthcare, you still have people who are left behind who still have healthcare needs that need to be met. But now it's almost certain that we have a much lower percentage of doctors and other medical professionals in society to help those people. So Thanos hasn't actually made the world a better place at all. His plan is an abject failure, whether you look at it from a moral perspective, whether you look at it from a sort of consequentialist perspective, or whether you just look at the pragmatic practicalities of it all. This is a really dumb plan, and it would not actually work. here's your chance. I'm opening up the floor. Please let me know what you think in the comments section below. Hey, if you like the content I'm creating and you want to see more of it, then please support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Every little bit helps. I'm burning all sorts of daylight to keep the channel going and keep the content coming, and so I really appreciate your support. If you're not a subscriber, then please subscribe and hit the notifications button so you get notification of any of the new content that I'm posting here on Left Foot Media. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Question.